You know, I never really understood why people would make such a big deal about priests taking a vow of chastity. I mean, what was really so special about abstinence? After all, the only real reason I ever saw myself wanting sex was to have kids. Raising a family could be a cool thing to do, I reasoned, never once considering that there might be something about that view on sex that was anything but normal. Since then, I found that most people really like sex, and some of them can't get enough of it. I wondered if my feelings about sex just meant I had to be gay, because I didn't want sex in the way the Catholic Church told me I ought to. Then I figured I was bi. I just was a particularly unhorny kind of bi. But maybe, out there in the world, there are some people of unknown gender who I could, in theory, possibly, maybe just consider fucking. Of course. Since I never knew what those theoretical individuals were like, I jumped between labels of straight, gay, and bi. The term asexual eventually came into my vocabulary, as I felt the need to call my condition by something. It was a very accidental coming out, I suppose. I never really had a period when I wasn't out, more just a time before I knew what to call myself. I do recall, though, upon first telling people I considered myself asexual, getting the response of, "Oh yeah, like a plant," among increasingly worse reactions. Well, you see, that one sort of stuck with me, because I knew a thing or two about plants, including that most of them reproduce sexually. I really am not a plant. I am somehow more different from everyone around me than a stinking plant. Of course, there are plenty of people who simply somehow knew me better than I knew myself, who would tell me I hadn't found the right person yet. And, maybe you're gay. Have you considered that? Come to think of it, that was most people's reaction. Because God forbid I exist without being in some way sexual. Even though no one ever said it, everyone was telling me that sex is an integral part of being human. I mean, those are the more positive reactions. Some people thought something must have happened to make me ace. Like I must have been sexually assaulted or something. Ironically, that only happened after coming out. Should have told him to do it years before. They insisted on knowing my sexual history, like my lack of voluntary sex was evidence against my asexuality, rather than for it. All of that was going to be better with queer people. They have similar struggles. They would definitely understand what I'm going through. Or so I had hoped. Apparently, I am not like you, since the scope of identity at this school is based around who people want to fuck, and neither is not a recognized option. Beyond the erasure of asexuality, there's also the constant implication that I am not queer enough. So much of the focus is on liking certain people that they forget that some of us simply don't. Events, discussions, and so on show a glimpse of what it's like to be queer, but almost never display asexuality. I want to change that. I wish I could end on a happy note. I wish I could say I finally found acceptance, or even that all those people were right, and I just needed to find the right person. But it's not true. I am a whole and complete person. I don't need to change who I am to be complete. I just wish everyone else would realize that. I still need to push back against their stereotypes.